Okay, so let's dive in. When most people think math, what comes to mind? Probably, formulas, school stuff.
Yeah, dusty textbooks maybe even a little bit of dread. Feels separate.
Right, like it's this thing completely separate from, well, real life. But what if that whole idea is like missing the point?
That's exactly what the sources we looked at are getting at. They present math less as calculation and more as understanding.
Understanding. How so?
Well, they call it the language of logic and pattern.
Yeah.
Think of it like an invisible tool, something that actually structures our world.
The idea of it being a language, that's interesting. How do the sources explain that? What does it mean, a language of logic?
Well, like any language, it gives you a precise way to describe things, right?
Yeah.
To build arguments, predict what might happen.
Okay.
Math gives us this sort of universal framework for talking about quantity, space, change, even uncertainty.
So when they say language of logic,
They mean it has these rules, these symbols that let you reason really rigorously. You start with something solid, a premise.
and follow the logic.
Exactly. And you reach conclusions you know are sound. It's
Yeah.
all about defining relationships, finding patterns,
Patterns in simple things
like the spots on a ladybug, yeah.
Mm.
Or incredibly complex things, like figuring out a satellite's trajectory. It's the underlying system.
and you start seeing these patterns everywhere, the sources say, not just in like engineering or finance.
No, definitely not. One source mentions music composition, for instance.
Music.
Hmm.
How does math fit in there?
Using specific ratios,
Mhm.
mathematical relationships, to create harmonies that, well, just sound pleasing to us.
Uh-huh.
Or think about art and architecture across centuries. Symmetry, proportion, the golden ratio comes up.
Right, I've heard of that.
And then jumping to the modern world, the sources really dig into algorithms.
Ah, okay. The thing's running, well, everything digital now.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
You get a recommendation on a streaming service. That's math working behind the scenes.
Correlation, statistics.
Exactly. Correlation, probability. Or when your GPS finds the quickest route.
That's math, too. I guess I never really thought about it like that.
It is. Graph theory, optimization algorithms. It feels like magic sometimes, but it's just sophisticated math structuring our digital lives.
So it's shaping everything from ancient art to the phone in your pocket. But let's bring it even closer. The sources argue it's also a fundamental uh, life skill.
Absolutely. That's a really strong point they make. It's not just for scientists.
We're using it all the time without realizing.
Constantly. Think about really simple stuff the sources bring up. Setting your alarm, that's time intervals, sequencing.
Yeah.
Going grocery shopping requires, estimation, comparing prices, unit costs, staying on budget.
Mental math, basically.
Right. Or following a recipe that's all ratios, measurements, maybe converting things, even just planning your weekend.
How so? Planning a weekend.
Figuring out how long things take, how to sequence activities, managing your time, and maybe money. That involves spatial thinking, temporal reasoning. It's inherently mathematical.
So it's not always about the calculation itself, but more the analytical thinking, the problem-solving approach that math teaches you.
Yes, that's a huge takeaway. The sources really suggest that this way of thinking is, well, critical just to navigate the world today.
Because there's so much data everywhere.
Precisely. Being able to understand probability or evaluate statistics someone throws at you, or even just, spot when an argument doesn't quite hold water logically, it's becoming vital.
It's about using that language of logic we were talking about.
Exactly that. Using it to make sense of information, to evaluate things critically, make informed decisions, whether it's personal stuff or at work. The sources frame it as like essential cognitive training.
Okay. That really reframes math, doesn't it? It's not just the subject you pass or fail. It's a tool.
A fundamental tool for understanding reality.
Yeah.
It's more than just the formulas. It's a way to think clearly, solve problems. You're already using it constantly.
Right. So here's a final thought then, kind of building on all this for you to consider. If math really is this language, this invisible structure, and engaging with it, even in these everyday ways, sharpens your thinking, what new problems or challenges or maybe just decisions in your own life could understanding this invisible tool even a little bit better empower you to tackle?